Hi everyone, it's Alex from Risk Academy, and in this short video I want to talk about how to tell fad from reality in the world of risk management. Because the trouble is, risk management has been around for ages, and it has a very solid foundation in the number of sciences, in decision science and probability theory, in neuroeconomics, and some of the other scientific fields that have been studying the nature of uncertainty and how uncertainty affects decisions for decades, sometimes hundreds of years, and came up with mathematical solutions for measuring the relationships between uncertain factors, for how uncertainty affects decisions, for calculating and measuring risk. So risk has a huge and a very solid foundation. Unless proven otherwise, and I'll talk about that separately in a few minutes. But the risk management has a very solid foundation in a number of sciences. And then we have this almost parallel universe of what I call risk management 1, where audit companies, consultants, rating agencies, national risk management institutions, some of them, some of the dodgy ones, come up with just this constant barrage of risk information that actually has nothing to do. It has literally no relationship to the scientific foundation of risk management. It's just completely weird and bizarre. And here are a few tips on how to tell whether something is actually solid or something is an absolute fad, which, you can take with all the other management fads. There's no scientific background behind it. Within years, it will probably be proven to be not working, and it's most likely is not going to do much harm to your business. So if you want to do it for some other purpose, to sell something, then by all means do it. But here are a few ideas. First, the name risk in the name, or having the word risk in the name, is the first warning sign. Risk appetite, risk owners, risk mitigation plans, risk management framework, risk committee. What else is out there? So basically, risk reports, risk management training, for that matter. Anything that has the word risk in the title is not a dead giveaway that it's basically bullshit, but it's a little warning sign that probably this did not come from science, that came from some consultant who wanted to sell risk management services. Because reality, most answers, most techniques, most approaches, most tools that we have in risk management, they have been discovered by scientists in decision science, probability theory, neuroeconomics, decades ago, and they've never called them risk management. It was just called decision making or probability theory or something like that. So that's number one. The second kind of criteria for how to tell if something is a management fad is to try and understand where is this coming from. Who's the source of information? Fascinating thing happened to me many years ago, because I grew up in Australia, and Australia was because it's so far away, it was its own world of risk management, with its own standards, with its own kind of approach to risk management. And then when I moved to work in Moscow, in Russia, I came across this kind of the rest of the world vision for risk management. So I think it was the first time I've come across ERM as the concept, and I started Googling, what is this ERM? And I remember same happening with risk appetite. I started Googling, what is this risk appetite? Why is it suddenly appearing? Because people were making decisions and had criteria for making those decisions, and had certain stop losses and deal no deal and different kind of limits forever. And then suddenly, because I guess I'm old enough, I remember when risk appetite was suddenly became mainstream. And so I started Googling that, and I started Googling with ERM, and I couldn't find anything except a couple of papers by consultants. And then later, Wikipedia page, again written by consultants and some like individual risk managers from like one big company somewhere in US. I mean, hopefully, I mean, this is your second criteria. If that's the case, if there are no scientific papers that explain the concept, it hasn't been debated, if there is no at least couple of opposing schools of thought on something, that's a pretty good reason to consider that maybe this concept is just bullshit. Because exactly the same can be achieved through other more scientifically proven tools, and you don't have to kind of jump on that bandwagon of this new idea, because again, risk appetite existed forever. This concept of risk appetite, all it came up with, it said we need to now aggregate it into a separate or a number of separate risk appetite statements. I mean, that is just ridiculous. This is nonsense on so many levels. I have at least 4 articles on risk appetite. Read on Risk Academy blog if you disagree. I make a very compelling argument. I mean, I'm yet to meet a person who would contradict my argument, and that's the thing I wanted to talk about in risk management or in science in general. Anything goes if it has been tested and validated by proper study, or by a number of studies preferably. And even then, this is not a guarantee that it's the right answer. It's only right until somebody else proved it to be otherwise, to be wrong. And again, this is a very concept that many people totally miss. This they think that their experiences, something that they felt or something they've observed in their workplace, is going to work everywhere, and it's actually the solution. But the reality is it's very difficult to judge if something is good or not unless it has been tested a number of times in different conditions, verified, and even then it holds true only until it was proven otherwise, and that may be many years later. I mean, cognitive biases, some of them have been disproved since they were created, even though they were pretty solid at the time of first publication. So, how to tell if something is a fad or proper decision science and risk management? Look for the name, look for the source where this information came from, and look for proper scientific studies or research papers or some sort of studies, not surveys. I mean, surveys, especially self-assessment surveys, are pretty much a bloody waste of time. They have absolutely no scientific significance. But some sort of properly conducted studies, and if you find all those 3, then it's probably a good concept that has been proven to work over time. If you don't, then it's probably a risk management fad that will most likely go away in a year or so. Remember, I've kind of outgrown through so many different fads. I mean, risk appetite was huge and then it kind of died down. Risk culture was huge and then it died down. Now it's kind of coming back, but don't worry, it will die down as well. Because again, risk culture is just a nonsense name for all the risk perception and psychology that has been studied for years, and 2 Nobel Prizes for that. No Nobel Prizes for risk culture, unfortunately. And emerging risk, remember, that was big. I mean, ARM used to be big, still is in some less developed countries. And cyber risk, again, that will pass as well. I mean, it's a pretty silly fad. And many other things will come and go, but we as risk managers, we really don't have the time or the luxury to waste so much on different kind of chasing all the different new concepts. We have to stick with the tools that work well and worked for decades, if not hundreds of years. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Do share in the comments underneath this video. I mean, especially if you disagree. I mean, I love people who disagree and can argue, not obviously arguing that, oh, I've done something well and it worked amazingly, because an opinion of a single person is absolutely meaningless. But the studies that have shown that something is actually useful, by all means, I mean, that's always helpful to everyone who reads this. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Do share underneath this video, and I'll see you in the next video on the Risk Academy channel.